Good evening. It is,
Good evening.
thank you. We have a limited group here in person. We are meeting at the Aquilina Howell Center, but also by way of conference call. The other board members are on the phone as we are making every effort to carefully comply with the CDC guidelines. As you can tell, we are physically separated and distanced. We do not have a large crowd here at all, and we welcome everyone who may be watching or participating by phone, as are all of the other board members. At this time, I'll call on Dr. Gale to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you very much. As I mentioned, all the other board members are participating by phone, and at this time I'll call on Vice Chair Joy Bowen to read the changes and additions for tonight's agenda.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The changes and additions are as follows. Number 1, item 701, School Board Meeting Minutes, March 10, 2020. The minutes were added after the March 24th, 2020 School Board agenda was published due to final edits. Number 2, item 7.02, School Board Agenda Preview Workshop Minutes, March 9, 2020. The minutes were added after the March 24th, 2020 School Board agenda was published due to final edits. 3, add item 19.02, Emergency Policy 0172, COVID-19, Emergency Meeting Guidelines. This is an emergency policy in response to the Governor's executive order. Number 4, add item 19.03, Financial Proposal between Leon County School Board and Leon Classroom Teachers Association for the 2019-2020 fiscal year. LCTA ratification occurred after the school board meeting was published. I move the acceptance of the changes and additions.
Thank you, Ms. Bowen. Is there a second?
Second, with Ms. Striplin.
Thank you, Ms. Striplin. Moved by Ms. Bowen, second by Ms. Striplin. If there are no objections, show this unanimously approved. Hearing none, it is approved. All right, that takes us to item number 6, which is persons to be heard. We do not have any speakers present at this time, which takes us to the general consent agenda, starting with item 7.01. Is there a motion for the consent agenda?
I move consent.
Moved by Mr. Jones. Second by Ms. Bowen. If there are no objections, show the consent agenda unanimously approved. Without objection, thank you. That takes us to item 18, which is the item of consent for construction. The consent agenda for construction, I will abstain just to avoid any appearance of potential conflict with my employment. Moved by Mr. Jones.
Second, Ms. Striplin.
Second by Ms. Striplin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Show it approved by 4 votes and 1 abstention. Thank you, Ms. Coffey. That takes us to, item 1901. I see.
Mr. Albritton.
Sorry, thank you, Mr. Danny, I know who you are. It's been a long day. Mr. Albritton is approaching the microphone to discuss item 19.01, which is the fish report.
Good evening, Board Chair, Superintendent. This is our annual fish verification report. Item 1901, the Superintendent recommends approval of the verification of Florida Inventory Schoolhouses fish report.
Are there any questions?
I move acceptance.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Jones, second by Ms. Wood. Any objection? Hearing none, show it unanimously approved. Thank you, Mr. Albritton. All right, that takes us to 19.02, which is our emergency policy in light of the executive order from the governor and COVID-19 coronavirus. Is Ms. Williams
Thank you, Madam Chair. As we all know, the governor last week issued Executive Order number 2069 entitled Emergency Management and Local Government Public Meetings. In that in that executive order, he waived all Florida statutes dealing with in-person quorum requirements, in-person meeting requirements, and related to public meetings. So what we have done is utilized Section 12054 Florida statutes that contains a provision that allows boards to enter or to adopt emergency policies. We're using that provision to adopt an emergency policy that basically takes what's in the governor's executive order and applies it, creates a policy for us so that there is not any concern about our own policies that deal with quorum and in-person meeting requirements. There's not any question at any later date that we somehow were not in compliance with our own policy. So that's what essentially this emergency policy does. It allows the board to meet virtually, telephonically, as needed during this crisis. It is as an emergency policy, it only has effect for 90 days. If we need it to operate beyond that, then we will need to go through rulemaking in order to do so. Thank you,
Ms.
Madam Chair.
Strickland, move approval. Second.
All right. Moved by Ms. Strickland, second by Ms. Wood. Is there any objection? Hearing no objection, show it unanimously approved. That takes us to item 19.03, which is the financial proposal between the Leon County School Board and the Leon Classroom Teachers Association for the 2019-20 fiscal year. Mr. Superintendent?
Madam Chair, as we discussed earlier in our executive session, item 1903 is a $4.6 million package for our classroom teachers for April of 2020. Highly effective teachers will receive $2,050, effective teachers $1,850, new teachers to the district without an evaluation $850. In addition, our pre-kindergarten teachers will also receive an additional $1,000 as part of this $4.6 million package. It's the one that Ms. McAllister went through thoroughly. I know our LCTA is excited about this ratification and us to get the money in their checks at the end of the month of April. So amidst all the bad news, this is some good news, especially for our classroom teachers who we are going to be relying on quite heavily over the course of the next 2 months.
All right. Is there a motion to approve?
So move the superintendent's recommendation. Bowen.
Moved by Ms.
Second,
Bowen,
Strickland.
second by Ms. Strickland. Is there any objection? Hearing none, show it unanimously approved. I don't see, under information, we have upcoming meetings and financial statements, which are typical. I think that takes us to item 22, which is the superintendent's comments, which undoubtedly will have to do with the COVID-19 coronavirus. Mr. Superintendent.
Madam Chair, I'm going to touch on several topics and then open it up for questions from board members.
Mr. Superintendent, while you were stepped away, there was a request that if you could we take questions after each segment? So, for example, if you're talking about food, can we stop and see if there are any questions about food? And then if you're talking about the academic
Yes, ma'am.
part, okay, that'd be fine. And then I will recognize each board member to see if anyone has any specific questions under each category.
All right. Let me first start off with just reminding everyone of the current situation, which is obviously very fluid. On Thursday, prior to spring break, after receiving guidance from the governor's office and the Commissioner Corcoran's office, it was expressed to us at that time that school would reopen immediately following spring break. And that was the message to the community. Less than 24 hours later, we shifted gears and made the announcement that school would not return this week. We would push that start date back to March the 30th. Last week, we then pushed the potential return date back to April the 15th. Now, these are decisions that are not being made by us. They're being made by state leaders and federal leaders, and these are decisions that that we are sure are being made on scientific by scientific experts and not based on hysteria. And we are making those same decisions for those reasons, based on science and the advice of the CDC, of our local county health department, who we have a wonderful relationship with. Trust me, I know I want to be back in school. I want kids to be back in school. My wife wants to be back in her classroom. This is the last thing that we wanted, but for the safety of our country and our state and our community, this is what the experts are telling us to do. So having said that, imagine our teachers and our students left Friday before spring break thinking that they would be back after, when spring break ended. They left all of their textbooks in their classrooms, teachers left their computers, they left their papers to be graded, and they went on spring break as normal. At 5 p.m. that night, I made the announcement that they would not be returning. So what we are asked to do, not only us, but the other 66 districts as well, is to completely change our method of delivery from a brick and mortar stand and deliver to some type of online district learning platform. Well, that sounds easy, but it's really not. I will say, though, as a district, we are far ahead of many other districts. I use my daughter as an example. She goes to school at a district in Middle Georgia about the same size as Leon County, and they are struggling even to communicate with their students. They have no means to communicate. We have things in place. All of our students have an Outlook account, an email account. Those decisions were made several years ago. Also, teachers and folks are using Remind to text message students. So we do have the ability, thank goodness, to communicate with our staff members and most importantly, our students. So we know as of right now, the earliest our students could return is April the 15th. I am not optimistic. Honestly, we are planning like that school is going to be out through May the 29th. And we are making plans as such. So I'm going to touch a minute about the academic plan, and then I'll stop and ask for any questions, and then we'll move on to employees and then to what we're doing to support children and families with food needs during this challenging time. First, on the academic side, Jillian and her staff has come up with a brilliant plan, a two-phased plan that kind of buys us some time from March 30th. We are on an extended spring break this week. So the only expectation for teachers is that they have their grades entered by 4 p.m. on March the 27th so that report cards can go out on schedule as advertised in our calendar by April the 1st. So that's what teachers are busy doing this week, finalizing their grades. Some are coming into their schools to get this done. Some are working remotely for home, whatever fits them best in order to accomplish this task. Then on Monday, we are going to be re-engaging with our teachers. Our site administrators are going to be re-engaging with our teachers as they begin to develop a distance learning platform that they are comfortable with. In the meantime, Jillian's staff has created packets for all students K-11 to be working on until our teachers are comfortable with their distance learning platform. These packets will go active online on our website on Friday and will be available for families who have device issues or connectivity issues. Will be live. Hard copies will be on our campuses on Monday for parents to come pick up. If parents and families are still experiencing problems, they just contact their school, and their school will make arrangements to help them navigate through the packet process and the getting of the packets. And to get kids, as Dr. Cox said, the wheels of learning are going to start spinning again, are going to start turning again on Monday. As our teachers begin to feel comfortable with their distance learning platform, they're going to then regain control of their students. We are expecting in negotiations tomorrow and talks tomorrow morning with LCTA, so I don't want to say anything publicly until we vet it with the union. But our expectations are that teachers will then begin communicating to kids, letting them know what's going on, to work on their packets until the teacher's ready then to take control 100% of the class with an online platform. And it could be many different things and many different tools. And we have professional development already available. We're rolling out to our teachers to get them comfortable. And it may be as simple, and Rocky probably would have taken 2 weeks. Christy, on the other hand, she may be ready to go on Monday or Tuesday, and that's great. But we're going to give teachers the time and the development they need to shift from stand and deliver face-to-face to some type of distance learning program. It could be as simple as developing their website and updating their website once a week to show by class or period, these are the assignments, and then reaching out and using email and having office hours. So for our teachers, there are going to be lots of different things for them to choose from moving over the course of March the 30th until April the 10th. Then on Monday, April the 13th, all teachers will totally regain control of their class 100%. Again, some may have needed the packets for the entire 2 weeks. Some may have needed them for 2 days. Some may not have needed them at all. We're leaving that up to the teacher to buy them some time to get comfortable with their distance learning program, whatever fits best for them. And then the teachers will take control from there through the end of the school year. 2 things that we're committed to. One is ensuring that our seniors graduate and graduate on time. Lots of these kids, first of all, imagine those kids walked out leaving for spring break, and chances are they're never going to return to their school. No prom, no grad bash, potentially no graduation ceremony. That's tough. I mean, that's tough. And but again, we're relying on the scientists. Maybe hope and pray something changes between now and the end of May. But as of right now, that's the stark reality. So we don't want to hold those kids up. Lots of them have already committed to the United States military. I know when I was at a ceremony they had for kids that committed to the United States Army. We had here at the Howell Building where they gave the oath of office. There was an astronaut, a colonel in the United States Army, astronaut that gave the oath over the internet to kids. It was really cool. So we don't want to hold those kids up, whether it's going in the military, going on to college, going to career technical training, whatever their step next is. We want to ensure that they have a diploma in their hands. And if I have to drive around this county and get you, the 5 of you, to help me, and we're going to hand these kids their diplomas, we'll do whatever it takes to ensure they graduate on time. And then also ensuring that the school year ends on May the 29th. Financially, it would be devastating for us to go into an extended school year. The cost of just the teacher side alone is about $400,000 or $500,000 a day. We have to, and are submitting a plan to the Department of Education this week, a continuity of academic services that's going to go to the department to ensure that we have the seat hours and the contact hours required in statute in order to make sure that our school year ends on time, May the 29th, and that our seniors are then awarded diplomas. So that's kind of the 2-phase plan for academic instruction. On the ESE side, Dr. Cox has been working very hard with his team on IEPs and how we deliver IEPs. They have a plan they're going to roll out with that, as well as providing for the accommodations of our students with exceptionalities. He's going to be releasing more details to the principals tomorrow about that. So I'm going to put a pause in right there and then ask for any questions as it relates to the situation in general and or what our plan is academically shifting from traditional brick and mortar, stand and deliver, face-to-face to distance learning.
Let me suggest that we limit this round of questions to just the academic portion, and I will call on each board member one at a time to ask academic-related questions. And so let's start with Vice Chair Bowen.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A broad question. How will this information, Mr. Superintendent, that you just shared with us be shared with our school community?
Well, we have been holding daily press events. We've been streaming it through Facebook Live to try to let the community know about the packets. And I was working at some of our food distribution sites. They're aware, and a lot of them. When can we get the packets? When can we get the packets? Look, they want their children engaged doing something constructive and not playing Fortnite 24 hours a day, right? So yes, they are clamoring. And if we have students, Ms. Bowen, to your question, that we see or have not been engaged for whatever reason, whether it's an issue with not having a device or connectivity, that after the first week, if we see students and families haven't engaged with us academically, we are going to be reaching out to them individually and asking what's going on. We haven't heard from you. Are you having a problem? Can you not get it? And then we'll firefight those on a case-by-case, school-by-school, class-by-class basis.
Madam Chair, thank you. Madam Chair, the first thing I probably should have said, Mr. Superintendent, is first, I really want to thank you and your staff for, I'm going to call it going above and beyond the call of duty to the extent to which you are continuing to make education available to our children under this unprecedented time that we live in. So my hat's off to you, and I applaud everything that you've been doing. So I really need to say that the energy and synergy that is being given to us to do this is wonderful, and to thank you and the committee. So that I really should say first. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that, Ms. Bowen, but trust me, I'm just the talking head. It's not me. It's the people behind the curtains that are making this happen. And it's just, none of us expected this, but we are gonna. Is it gonna be perfect? No, it's not gonna be perfect. But I can assure you, we're gonna do the very best we can through a very challenging time.
Yes. That's my first question right now, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Bowen. Mr. Jones, any questions on the academic piece?
No questions.
Thank you. Ms. Striplin, questions on the academic portion?
No question.
And Ms. Wood?
Oh, I have questions. Thank you. I want to echo what Ms. Bowen said. So appreciate the work of the superintendent and his staff. We're fortunate enough. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
We've been fortunate enough to be able to listen in on not only the daily press conferences, but also the daily calls to the principals. And it's been wonderful to hear their enthusiasm and trying to all work this out as we go. So thank you to all of you. Superintendent, it seems like one of the biggest questions is about students who have poor access. Either they don't have internet or they don't have devices. And I know you all have been thinking about that a lot. I'm wondering if we have any commitments at this point from Comcast to help deliver internet services to those who don't have it. Also wondering about any distribution of devices. Do we have a plan for that for those who don't have them?
So we are in the process on our website. There's an online survey. We're asking feedback from families to see exactly what the landscape looks like, what the lay of the land looks like with our families in having devices and connectivity. All of our principals are collecting this data, and we want to do exactly what you said, ensure that if kids need devices or we need to get them, that we're going to be able to provide for them the things they need in order to continue their distance learning program. So yeah, it's going to be a case-by-case basis. In some schools, and it kind of follows the lines of, some families have multiple computers. Every child has a computer. They have printers. They have this, they have that. Others, may just have their iPhone. So it's going to be all over the place. But yes, we are going to work tirelessly to ensure that all of our students have the devices and the connectivity they need in order to participate.
That's wonderful, and I think putting that out there to alleviate people's fears about this is a really good job.
Yeah, and a lot of this we're turning over. We're here to support our principals. We have amazing principals, and they're going to work with their school and their school community. And if we see that there's some people that aren't engaged, and quite honestly, I think there may have been some kids that have left, that have gone on to live with other family members while parents have to go to work. Look at the reality. We have 33,000 kids that are out on the streets right now, and a number of those students, they don't need idle time, and they don't need to be on the streets. And with every decision that leaders make, whether you're the president or the governor or here locally as the mayor, every decision has consequences. And if the scenario, if you went to the far right and we did nothing as a country, and then X number of people just would perish. Or if you go to the far left and everyone goes home, you lock yourself in your house, don't come out until we tell you it's safe. There's consequences on that side too, but we're relying on the scientists and the others to give us what they feel is those best to protect for the health and safety and welfare of our country, and then we're just adapting our academic structure and program to meet those needs. But also, let me tell you this too. I was going around visiting those food distribution sites, and we had a couple of college students that were helping as volunteers. And I asked one of the students, I said, "Well, how many classes do you?" They're taking 4 classes, 12 hours. And I said, "Well, how many of your professors of all your professors have they engaged with you?" And this is a state university. I'm not going to say which state university. And they said, "Well, 2 have and 2 haven't." So other places might roll this out. It's seamless. Everybody has this. It's not that easy. We're going to be honest about it. We know what we're capable of. We know what we're not capable of. But even universities are having issues. Because there are those professors they are not in the technological world and they don't have a backup plan. But it's not just us. The universities are facing it. Everybody's facing this problem together. But I think academically, Jillian and her team have developed a good plan. It's basically to provide support to teachers until they feel comfortable to regain their class from a different mode of operation.
Wood, did you have additional? Just a second, Mr. Jones. Ms. Wood, were you finished?
I had just another question or two, and then I'll be happy to.
And if everybody else could mute their phone, I'll call Mr. Jones right after this.
Today I heard Dr. tell the principals what the plan is for our ESE students. Could you just give a general, so people understand that you are going to be able to work with IEPs?
Yes, and we're gonna do telecommunicating for IEPs. Dr. Cox is gonna go public with that announcement tomorrow afternoon. We're gonna lay that out through our Facebook stream. But we do have a plan in place to get our IEPs completed, and then also to continue to provide services, whether it's OT, PT, speech language, and to continue to provide the academic or supplemental services as required in their IEP. He has plans in place to do that, and he'll be making more public announcements about those plans tomorrow afternoon.
Last question. Are teachers, schools going to be expected to have office hours where parents can call them if they have a question?
Yeah, so that's going to be part of our discussions, Ms. Wood, with LCTA tomorrow. I have some priorities that they have, just what you said, office hours. We'll give them flexibility, 9 to 11, 11 to 1, to do just that for parents and students to reach out to them much like the college professor has. And the bells won't be ringing. It won't be John sitting in a class from 7:30 to 8:20. The bell rings. They go to the next class, then the bell rings. This will be virtual, online, distance learning. But yes, it is my expectation that teachers have office hours set each and every day to help manage their platform and with questions that will come from students and parents.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Wood. If you could mute your phone. Mr. Jones, if you could unmute and ask your question.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Superintendent, I do apologize that I did not make acknowledgement of what I thought was a fantastic way that you communicated to our public, as well as included our board members, my colleagues, and subsequent discussions that you were having pretty much on a daily basis with your administrative team and principals. That type of enlightenment went a long way as ombudsman on behalf of the district, and I thought that was a very nice touch, and I thought it was also good But for some of those press conferences, you let your subject matter experts on your team, like Dr. Gregory and Dr. Cox and others, to make presentations directly to the public regarding their areas of responsibility. I thought that went a long way to communicate what I thought was some finer details that I'm certain was on the hearts and the minds of our parents.
Well, I appreciate the five of you. I mean, you've been deeply involved from the very beginning. You've been involved in these conference calls. You've reached out to me individually with advice, and I greatly appreciate you all in the active role you're playing as board members to help us all. You know, I said this before, we're all in this together, and we'll get through it together. But it's going to take a lot of us pushing and pulling in the same direction. I do need to make an announcement. I said this earlier to our students. Let's be clear. School is not out. And so we are expecting our students to re-engage on Monday, March the 30th. School is not out. So if you need quality points to be promoted, you need credits towards graduation, you need credits towards promotion. Those things are going to happen between now and May 29th. So don't just dial it in. Right? And now let me make that clear. The state may have waived state assessments and those requirements for promotion and for graduation, but as far as credits and grades, that game's still in play. And your teachers are going to have expectations that you are coming, you're getting online, you're doing the things you need. If you're having questions, you're talking to them and asking those questions. School until May 29th is still in session.
All right. Mr. Superintendent, did you want to move to another
Right, so
topic?
let's move a little bit to employees. We talked about our teachers, our instructional staff, and how we're dealing with them. That they this week have the grades turned in by 4 p.m. on Friday. Next week, principals are going to start having faculty meetings via conference call or other means or modes of communication. Obviously not in mass, and they can do that however they want. They can break it up by department, have the department chair, have the English department from 9 to 10, the science department, the math department. Those principals, that's why they're put in these positions. They will make the best decisions to communicate to our teachers first. To our support staff and non-instructional staff, it's a little more problematic because we have two non-instructional unions that we work with, LESPA and 1010. Right now, we are in a posture of exempt staff members only. So that is my immediate staff, the directors, the coordinators. All non-exempt staff members have been sent home for the week unless we need them to come in, like we had the phones at Gilchrist went out today. So I had needed to call our phone crew back in and to work on the phone lines, but they're being called in on a as-needed basis. I've lost a lot of sleep over next week and how to deal with employees. And, all of the stuff is saying don't gather, work from home if at all possible. That's the message we are sending to our folks. If you can work remotely to still complete the functions of your job. But for those other employees, bus drivers, food service workers, we know we are under contract with those folks for 185 days at a minimum of 6 hours a day. Bus assistants, and I'm not just going to make up something for them to do. So I have to figure out a plan for them. We are committed that those people that are under contract, I've said this from the beginning, I'm sure I have your support, that they will not suffer any adverse financial impact as far as their paycheck's concerned, their time's concerned. The last thing we need to do is put our people on the street. Ms. Striplin mentioned all of her kids are now unemployed. We can't do that to our workforce. We know we are guaranteed funding for this year. We're committed to our 4,500 employees for this year. We do have some hourly people that are kind of hinky. We have some teachers hourly as needed and other people hourly as needed. But we're trying our very best to work through all of those issues. Haven't landed the plane on exactly what to tell some of these groups, some of these bargaining groups. We had an announcement today. We were actually talking to principals about what to do with these groups when the mayor and the chair of the county commission issued a stay-at-home order. So that just put people that were already on a 10 on a 20. our employees wanting to go home. It's not safe. It's not this. It's not that. So I'm still trying to figure out exactly what was said at the press conference today. But when it comes to employees, we need to ensure them they're going to be paid. They're going to be paid on time, and they will not suffer an adverse impact financially, because that, I'm sure, is weighing on their minds heavily. And I'm sure I have your support in that commitment. Now, next year and moving forward, we'll just have to see what our budgetary numbers are in making those decisions. But our plan right now is to get through the end of this fiscal year without doing harm to our employees.
Mr. Superintendent, I know you mentioned there are some groups of folks who are not the traditional teachers who are teachers for us, but they're paid hourly, I believe, at ACE. And that's one of those groups that you're still trying to figure out how to, but that's on your radar screen.
Yes, ma'am, it is. And I have Ms. McAllister working with Ms. Browning, and those folks are paid on hourly as needed for a reason, because you have some of those GED classes they make, some don't make. And once you commit, to the hours, the class might not make, but the employee still has to be compensated. And that's why their contracts are structured like that. And quite honestly, though, too, some of those hourly as needed teachers make more than 7.5 hours, which is our traditional contract for our teachers. Some of them are actually making 9.5 hours a day. I mean, so there's.
I'm sure the source of funds is prescriptive as well, right? If they're
yes.
grant funded, or if they're funded by federal dollars or whatever. I know some of the ACE teachers were concerned and they wanted to come tonight under persons to be heard, and obviously we've discouraged being physically present. So I had commented that I would make sure I raise the issue.
So I would say flexibility, compassion, and grace. Commissioner said it. I've said it. Assistant superintendents are saying flexibility, compassion, and grace for our students, for our teachers, for our support staff. That in a time like this, have to have all three of those words come into play when we're making decisions.
Okay. If I could remind everybody to mute, unless Mr. Jones, did you have something further to say? Mr. Jones, did you have something further?
Yes. My thing is that when we find, my question is, have those persons who have been directly affected that you describe at ACE, have other options been made available for them?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. They have, and we're going to look to. I see this more as the other options were more of a short-term solution to a potentially longer-term problem. So we're going to continue to work on options and ways in case that we can justify to auditors when auditors come in. Well, why was this person paid? What did they do? What was the deliverable? What was their function? That we can ensure that we're doing that because they don't fall under any traditional contract with a guaranteed number of days and a guaranteed number of hours like most of our other employees do. But we're gonna again, flexibility, compassion, and grace. I think we're gonna get to a point where everybody's okay.
My next question then would be, have they accepted the options or taken advantage of the options that you have provided?
A number of them have. Some of them haven't. But we're gonna look past this week. I was just trying to get through this week, to be honest with you, because I've learned from that Thursday I said school's back in. On Friday I said just kidding, it's not back in. That this thing is so fluid. We're going to continue to look at options for those folks again to try to help them through a challenging time. But we'll have more to come.
Okay. Is there another topic, Gary, that we want to move on to? And don't forget to mute your phones, please.
Yeah. So.
Madam Chair.
I'm sorry, Ms. Wood?
Yeah, I just have one question about the other employees. I'm also watching Facebook Live as we talk, which is one advantage, I guess, on the phone. And employees are asking, literally, are they supposed to come to work on Monday? When are those things going to be announced to all of our employees, especially our bus drivers and so forth?
Yeah, this is what's been weighing on me really. because we have to treat people equitably, fairly. I mean, there's just a lot of things to consider. Now that they've issued the stay-at-home order, even locally,
Right.
we'll be making it I have a conference call tomorrow morning with principals to talk about non-instructional staff. Our teachers, we have that plan. If they want to come in, like I know Christy wants to come into her classroom and work from her office and at school, they have that option. If they want to work remotely at home, just like our exempt people do, they have that flexibility. We'll be making a decision for non-instructional staff here I would say by the end of the day tomorrow, but I'm going to have a conference call with principals tomorrow morning. I'm meeting with my staff at 8:30 to talk about the big picture of everything that's going on, and then we'll have an announcement out by the end of the day tomorrow.
And perhaps by then we can get some clarification from the mayor and the.
If there are going to be laborers who are going to be impacted by this decision, we may want to do our part to make certain that we make our people aware of the varied resources that are made available to them during this crisis, particularly through Career Source and other both federal and state options. And anything that we could do to perhaps mitigate through help assist, technical assistance or helping people with applications would go a long way if they fall off our payroll.
Right. No, I think maybe I misspoke, but it's not my intentions to lay anyone off. That's not I just need to ensure, and I talked to Don, we're going to have to be creative. John Hunkier, our Chief Hunkier, we're talking about, the bus drivers doing a time to do a lot of professional development, to do some risk management training on best practices, and everybody's going to be at work doing something. It could be professional development, could be online training, it could be many different options as opposed to just coming and showing up at a brick and mortar facility to justify getting a paycheck. So we're going to be creative, but again, we're committed to not laying people off and to do just the opposite, ensure that we are making good on the financial commitment of their contract, whatever that contract is.
Okay, is there another topic area that you were moving on to?
So finally, I'm gonna finish with our food distribution plan. I know there's been some questions about that and why we haven't expanded it to use our transportation vehicles. Some things seem really easy. And because I had that same thought Sunday, I woke up at 3 or 4 in the morning and thought, man, wouldn't it be cool if we just use the buses and we'll just instead of putting kids on the buses, put the food on the buses and drive around to the bus stops and drop off the food. And on the surface, it sounds easy, and in a small rural district, it may, and there may, and for us, there's many other issues involved, and I'll talk about those. But let me give you kind of where we are now. Right now, we have 14 school sites that we're delivering that have drive-through service, and I'd like to thank the hundreds and hundreds of volunteers who helped us make that happen. We brought in our food service managers to put the packets of the lunches and the breakfast together, and volunteers that distributed. I'd also like to thank Second Harvest Food Bank, United Way of the Big Bend, so for everyone 18 and younger, by Department of Agriculture guidelines, they have to be present in order to receive the meals. That's not our rule, that's their rule. We're abiding by the rules because the last thing we want to do is get shut down. Everyone that's 18 or younger can come to one of those 14 sites, walk through, drive through, bike through, and receive a nutritious lunch and breakfast. Also, anyone 18 or older, in our partnership with Second Harvest Food Bank, is providing 6,000 subsidy items that can be added to whatever they have in their pantries and on their shelf to help sustain them through this challenging time. Those are being worked by, again, volunteers. A lot of this village, our mental health counselors, a lot of our mental health people are helping man those Second Harvest stations that are not side by side. We're practicing our our responsibility of distancing, but that the 18 and over can pick up a bag to carry home with them to supplement what is or is not in their pantry. Yesterday, the first day of operation, we gave out over just under 1,700 meals to students. Those are just on the student side. And their adult that was with them also got one of those 6,000 bags from Second Harvest. So we did 1,700 today in our drive-through service at those 14 sites. Word is starting to spread. I'm sorry, yesterday. I'm sorry, Ms. Bowen. Today, we did 1,952, I believe. It increased by 300. We did almost 2,000 meals, students age 18 or younger, at those 14 sites. Now, it's my intention to expand next week to several other schools. Astoria Park, we want to prop up on Monday. We're also going to prop up Sealy Elementary School on Monday, and then we're looking to be creative. I know I have kind of a desert in South City. We're looking to get creative to maybe have something propped up that can be delivered from Fairview to a drive-through place on that spot on Orange Avenue. I've also heard from some people at Fairbanks Ferry. Now, let's go back to the buses. So the last thing we want to do is overpromise and underdeliver.
Right.
Because folks, they won't care if you fed them for a week or 2 weeks or a month. They'll just know you're the one that stopped feeding them, right? So we want to ensure that what we're doing is sustainable for the long haul. And I didn't want to get too far out there because there's several factors that come into play. One is the food chain, the supply of food that's coming into our community and coming into our schools. That's the first major chain. The second part is our employees that are then taking those products, compiling the packets, and then the distribution of that food. If we get to stay home, whatever, that part of the chain breaks, and then we are no longer able to provide that service. Or on the other side, if the supply chain goes down and we don't have the food delivered to our community and to our schools, that also shuts the whole program down. Now, when it comes to transportation, there are several issues about hot meals going out and then them spoiling and some of those issues. The other concern is right now we have security at all of our locations that are monitoring, and thank you, TPD. They're physically there at our city sites, and the Leon County Sheriff's Department has officers in close proximity if we have issues at our county sites. So thank you to our law enforcement for being there. When we're in practicing a social distancing, this is what our message is. You look at this boardroom. I'm 6 feet away from Opal, 6 feet away from board chair, 6 feet. I pull a bus up to a housing project, and I have 100 kids run up to the bus. That's not a sexy look. That's not social distancing. That's not, and I have very little control of. I don't have an officer following the bus. I don't have, I'm afraid I would lose control of it, number one. Number two, I had already developed a plan that had 58 buses at all of our CEP elementary schools, and we were going to put 100 meals on each bus. Well, that's 5,800 meals, and James is already, we've never done this. This is all new. Overpromise, underdeliver. He was definitely afraid that we would be overpromising and underdelivering. By expanding now next week to 17 sites, we think we have, within some walking distance, yes, or biking distance, yes, places set up throughout the county in order to meet this need. 2,000 today, I expect it's going to grow as word of mouth happens. The drive-through is very controllable for us. I mean, it just is. We can practice the social distancing. It just works. I was all about the buses, but it is just, I think, I don't want this to fail. You don't want this to fail. And I think we may, although it looks sexy on the surface, be setting ourselves up for failure. And I'm not willing to take that risk.
Any questions?
I defer to your expertise, Superintendent.
Think he's on a learning curve, but doing great.
We all are. We're in uncharted territory. We're in the teaching kid business.
Yeah.
We're not in the food distribution business. We're not into this. But I know, and as times, and let me go back to once we get to that shelter, stay at home, this and that and the other, and all those people losing their jobs, and all of these kids running their streets, and their families are now in financial distress. Desperate times call for desperate measures. And again, I beg those kids, don't do something stupid. Don't. It's not worth it. If you need help, we'll get you the help you need. Reach out to your principal. All right. Reach out to your school administration. If you need help, we'll get you help. Don't make a poor decision that could potentially affect you for the rest of your life. And I just fear that's what we're going to end up. And if we have a flash mob that rushes a school bus to get food, the risk is too great.
All right. Is there another topic you wanted to move on to, or is that okay? Ms. Wood, any further questions from you?
No questions.
Ms. Striplin? Mr. Jones?
No questions.
Sorry, it took me a minute to mute. Can I ask
Sure.
one question about the virtual instruction? Can you share any specifics as we move? Obviously, the same curriculum is being provided. Guys, if I could ask everybody to hit the mute button on their phone, we're getting some feedback. That'd be great. To give some guidance, obviously the next 2 weeks we're set with the worksheets and the packets, and it's set for entire grade levels across the board, having the same instruction. But as they move forward on virtual platforms, will teachers just be reaching out individually to their students to let them know what platform they're choosing to use, or can you give some kind of guidance on what to look forward to kind of in that mid-April when we transition over to virtual?
So senior teachers, for seniors, there are no packets. Senior teachers are going to automatically engage with those kids from day one. For the others, it's going to be a case-by-case basis. The expectation is going to be for all of our teachers to communicate individually with their students what their plan is for their class. So for Miss Hanson's 6th grade science class at Deer Lake Middle School, she's going to make contact, and she already has, but she's going to make contact. And a lot of our teachers, guys, they've already looked. They miss their kids miss them. But at a minimum, that the teachers would make contact with their students within the first several days to say, this is the plan. I need you. You don't worry about the packets. I got this starting tomorrow. Or I'm going to need you to do the packets through the end of the week as review material, and I'll be getting back to you at the end of the week on what the plan is moving forward for our science class, or for our chorus class, or for our physical education class. And all teachers at all levels, whether it's core or elective, are going to have those engagements. It just won't be face-to-face. It may be through Remind. It may be through email. It'll just be different ways of communication, but communication is the key, and that is the expectation. And some teachers, it may have taken Rocky the full 2 weeks to get his act together, up and running, from Stand and Deliver to some type of distance learning platform, where other teachers, they're going to be ready to take the reins in a day or two. It just depends on where the teacher is. But then, again, I've told our school administrators, flexibility, compassion, and grace, especially with our teachers, because this is new for many of them.
All right. Any other questions?
Madam Chair.
Ms. Wood?
Just thinking about what the superintendent just said about flexibility with our teacher and managing expectations, I think we need to also manage parent and student expectations about the time frame that teachers will be available. Sometimes I know when you are online, you start asking questions at 9 p.m. and we have to remember that our employees have families and people to take care of too. So I hope as part of this rollout of our online experience that we make clear when teachers are expected to be available, and the same for principals and everybody else, and when they're not.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, and we're going to emphasize that as these teachers set their office hours, right? Those office hours are there for a reason, and they're set for a reason by the teacher, and those are the office hours. So if you're going to send them an email at 9 at night, during those office hours, they will give you a response. It will not be 9 at night. So let's use those same 3 words for our parents, right? Flexibility, compassion, grace. Right? We need everyone to stay calm. The last thing we need is people yelling and screaming and pointing fingers. And no, we are fragile beings right now. We cannot have that at any level. But I can assure you, we will get through this together. We're in it together. We're going to get through it together, but we have to stay calm.
Okay. Are all minds clear, as Ms. Bowen would say? I do have something I would like to say. Is everybody okay with that? Anybody on the phone? Couple of things. One,
Uh-oh. Oh, no.
Ms. Bowen, are you all right?
Oh, I am now. I thought I had lost you all, but I found you again.
Okay, very good.
I'm here.
Okay,
Yes.
very good. I was just going to make a couple of comments. One is, a lot of us are addicted to the news. We watch every press conference. We watch every news story. We read everything. But I was thinking about our parents that were planning to be on spring break, and they've got little ones at home that they're now worried about having to figure out how to homeschool. And the last time we were here, we didn't know that we weren't coming back. And so for those who haven't been following the news with every hour of the day, I just wanted, this is just strictly my opinion, but I wanted to say one of the reasons, in case this isn't already abundantly clear, and for many of you this is obvious, but for those who haven't had an opportunity to really follow this, if you think about the fact that we have about 50 schools in Leon County, spread all across the county, geographically dispersed all over the county, and 34,000 students in those schools. If we had not closed the schools and one child in each school, or even 2, the exponential infection rate of this virus would have been outrageous. And so for us, if 2 children infect 2 children, that's 4, and then 8, and then, it exponentially goes up to the thousands within 15 days. We could have had an outbreak. And so I want to commend the governor and thank him for his order and for helping us to understand. I mean, it's a huge challenge, and I want to commend the superintendent and his staff for stepping up to this challenge in a significant way. I know that many of the people on your team have children at home themselves. They have families that they're concerned about. I know, I brought my mom into town, it's just, today I was on I don't know, I bet I've been on 10 Zoom calls this week already, and it's only Tuesday. And those different platforms are starting to sometimes not function because the entire country is trying to meet virtually, and we're all having to learn new technologies. And so it's not just our teachers, it's not just our families. I know today I was on 2 different calls, and the people I was talking to said their spouse was in the other room on a call also, and they had children underfoot, and they were trying to, we're all just really trying to juggle so much. And so primarily I wanted to say thank you. And then I wanted to end tonight with reading. I thank you to one of our assistant principals, Stacy Mortham, who's awesome at Canopy Oaks. She posted this, and I reposted it. I'm only reading it because I got about 1,000 shares or something crazy. But I think it's really important, and it's really a message to our parents, and I hope you hear this. It says, "Don't worry about them regressing in school. Every single kid is in the boat. They will all be okay. When we're back in the classroom, we will course correct and meet them where they are. Teachers are experts at this. Don't pick fights with your kids because they don't want to do math. And don't scream at your kids for not following the schedule. Don't mandate 2 hours of learning if they're resisting it. If I can leave you with one thing, it is this. At the end of all of this, your kids' mental health will be more important than their academic skills. and how they felt during this time will stay with them long after the memory of what they did during those 4 or more weeks is long gone. So keep that in mind every single day. And if there are no other issues, Ms. Bowen moves we rise.